One of my favorite things to do on this channel is to look at a key matchup between two star players. On Monday night, when the Vikings and the Eagles squared off, we had one of the best ones so far on the season. Justin Jefferson, who many claim is a top 5 wide receiver, faced off against Darius Slay. During this game, Jefferson was targeted 12 times. He finished the evening with 6 catches for 48 yards. The question I had before I started my film study was how much of that 48 was Darius Slay responsible for? Did he play better, or did he play worse than all the talking heads seem to believe? Before we begin though, if you can do me a huge favor and like and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate it. So anyways, throughout this game, the Eagles played a lot of too high coverages in an effort to slow down the Vikings offense. This trend towards too high coverages has taken over the entire NFL. The basic idea is that by having 2 safeties deep that split the field, quarterbacks are disincentivized from throwing it deep and are then forced to dink and dunk down the field. These coverages take away the big play component of many offenses and schemes. This is why these coverages are becoming a bigger part of some of the best defenses across the league. The Eagles in this game did a great job of varying their coverage throughout this entire match. On one play, they'd play a too high look with man coverage, then on the very next, they'd switch into playing quarter, half, or cover 3, or even a more aggressive cover 0 blitz. As far as Darius Slay is concerned, he only played as an outside cornerback in this one. He played on both the left and right side of the field. One thing to note is that he did not play a single snap in the slot. This was also the case last week when the Eagles faced the Lions. Now, Justin Jefferson, on the other hand, he played 34 snaps in the slot while he only played 25 on the outside. What's interesting is that in his previous game against the Packers, he lined up on the outside for 75% of his snaps. It's clear that Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell wanted to game plan around Justin Jefferson as a star receiver. He wanted to use his skill set in order to give the team some premier matchups, especially inside. Take this play that happened in the second quarter. The Eagles were playing with 2 safeties on the field. The boundary side safety started walking closer to the line of scrimmage while the free safety started shifting into the middle of the defense. This is a good tell that the Eagles are actually in a single high safety look like cover 3. That's what happened here. I want you to focus on where Justin Jefferson is lining up, and I also want you to check out Darius Slay too. Slay is the outside cornerback while Jefferson was lining up in the slot. On this play, Jefferson is facing nickelback Avonte Maddox. Jefferson is running a choice route here. This means Jefferson has the choice on how to break his route. Based on how Maddox was playing the snap, Jefferson chose to break inside as opposed to breaking towards the sideline. This was a good decision, and I love how Jefferson used a quick jab step outside in order to set this up. Jefferson picked up 11 of his 48 yards here. So as you can see from this last snap, Jefferson and Slay didn't face each other on every play. That was again due to alignment and what I talked earlier about the various coverages the Eagles defense called in this one. When Jefferson was in the slot, or when Slay simply played a zone coverage technique where Jefferson wasn't the receiver in his area, then Slay obviously wasn't responsible. With that in mind, I decided to track every single play and see how often these two faced each other. Based on my tracking, I had them facing each other on 17 snaps during this game. Of those, 2 ended up not counting due to a penalty. That means that Slay only covered Justin Jefferson on 15 of Kirk Cousins' 50 total passing plays. Breaking this down further, I counted 6 targets that were thrown in Justin Jefferson's direction. From here, I wanted to see just how ridiculous of a game Slay really had. From my tracking, I saw 1 completed pass for 7 yards, I saw 2 interceptions by Darius Slay, I saw 2 other passes that were almost intercepted, and the final play I saw was technically another pass breakup, but we'll definitely talk about this one later in the video. While I'm not going to break down each of these targets, I do want to start by looking at Slay's first interception. This happened in the third quarter. The Vikings were at the 19-yard line. They were running a concept called Mills on the open side of the field. Some also call this play pin because it's a combination of a post route on the outside with an in-route breaking on the inside. This is a great play against 2 high coverage defenses like cover 2 and cover 4. Depending on how the safety plays this, whether driving on the in or playing more conservatively on the post, the other route should be open. Now, the Eagles didn't play a 2 high coverage on this play. They actually played cover 3 with a single high safety. In this defense, Darius Slay is the outside cornerback. When you're playing a cover 3 defense, the offense will often pair play action with the concept in order to hold the linebackers. The goal is to pull them towards the line of scrimmage in order to open up a throwing window over the middle of the defense. The other way to do this is by simply using a backside drag route in order to force the linebackers to honor a potential throw underneath. That's how the Vikings called this particular play. After the snap, once the dig route cleared the linebacker level, Cousins knew he had a one-on-one with Justin Jefferson against Darius Slay on the outside. The one thing we all know about Kirk Cousins is that he's a timing and a rhythm-based quarterback. He wants to get the ball out early in order to beat the cornerback into a window. This normally works unless you're facing a really good cornerback that aggressively was sitting on top of the route. Slay's route recognition is incredible on this one. Instead of considering that Jefferson could be running a corner route or a bench route to attack the sideline, Slay jumps on the post across the middle. He was already at Jefferson's hip with his eyes on the quarterback before Cousins even threw the ball. Once Cousins released the football, Slay had this play already won. He drove on the pass and he picked it off. Now, two things to note here. The first is that Jefferson needs to be blamed for not breaking his route underneath Darius Slay. Troy Aikman talked about this on the broadcast. A wide receiver is responsible for not allowing the defensive back from crossing his face on an in-breaking route. After the game, Jefferson was the first to admit he made a mistake and he took full responsibility for this play. Now, while I do respect him for taking this bullet and for Troy Aikman to try to give Kirk a break on this one, I think we can also blame Cousins for a certain percent of this throw. Look how aggressively Slay is playing this from the start. Kirk completely missed the fact that he's standing there and that this window is already minimal to start with. Beyond this, we definitely need to give a huge shout out to Darius Slay once again because his plant and drive on this concept is perfect. His route recognition and his aggressiveness to jump on this one, it shows his elite ability. The thing about Slay's performance throughout this game was that this was not a one-time thing. He showcased his talent multiple times, breaking up a bunch of passes. To me, that shows his acute understanding of the situation on the field, but not only that, it simply illustrates how much film study that Slay had to have done specifically for this match. You don't make plays like this with this consistency without both of these things happening. Now, as far as the one reception that went for 7 yards, even that play was more of a technicality. The Eagles were playing a banjo coverage on the two outside receivers. Defenses will play a banjo coverage when they see a grouped alignment. When you have to worry about getting picked or having to fight through traffic, your man-to-man coverage turns from a one-on-one thing into more of an inside-outside role. On this particular play, Slay is responsible for the deep and outside routes, while Avonte Maddox is responsible for the short and inside plays. Since the receivers both stayed shallow to the line of scrimmage on his stick concept, then Slay is getting beat no matter what. Simply by his alignment is why Kirk threw the ball so quickly and why Jefferson was able to gain 7 yards. Again, at this point, all you can do is make a tackle and hope your defensive coordinator calls a better coverage against this concept later on. Outside of this play though, I only saw one true play where Slay definitely got beat by Jefferson. This play would likely have gone for 20 or so yards if the quarterback wasn't taken down for a sack. The Eagles were playing cover 2 man. That means they have 2 deep half-field defenders playing in zones, while the underneath cornerbacks are playing man coverage on the receivers underneath. Many defenses will also call this cover 5. Jefferson did a fantastic job of eating the cushion between himself and Slay before stacking the defender underneath. Once Slay got into his trail position, knowing he had safety help over the top, Jefferson used that to his advantage. He used a nice stutter step at the top, combined with a good head fake, and then broke back inside. Jefferson was definitely open by the right hash, and if Cousins wasn't taken down for a sack by Fletcher Cox, this likely would have been a good play. Now, after going through this film in detail, there weren't any other plays beyond a few backside routes that I would have given to Justin Jefferson for the win. Even on those plays, he was likely never getting the ball anyways, so you can't really say that was a huge missed opportunity or anything like that. I do think there is one play that people are claiming that Darius Slay was burned on, but only if Irv Smith caught the ball at the sideline. This definitely would have been a touchdown. However, I think after reading these comments, there is a clear misunderstanding of how zone coverages actually work. Now, I'm not going to claim that I know the exact play call, but based on the evidence on the field, I have a pretty good idea. From my vantage point, this play looks like the Eagles are in a cover 6 or quarter half defense. This is a combination of cover 2 and cover 4. The cover 2 side would be on Darius Slay's side of the field, while the cover 4 side is on the bottom half of your screen. If this is the case, and I'm pretty sure it is, then Darius Slay played this exactly right. He's not at fault for driving on the out route. In fact, that's what Slay is supposed to do in this coverage. He has his eyes on the number 2 receiver to take any route to the flat. On the other hand, the safety is fixated on Justin Jefferson in the slot. In cover 2, the safety should be keying the number 1 receiver, especially if he's running a go route up the sideline. The safety should have been sprinting towards the sideline before the ball was even out of the quarterback's hands. Instead, he's late, which is why this play almost went for a touchdown. The final thing I'm going to bring up will likely anger a lot of people watching this video. I do unfortunately think that Darius Slay should have been called for defensive pass interference on this play. The Eagles were in cover 1 man, and Slay was facing Justin Jefferson on a hitch by the sideline. First, I think Jefferson does get away with a veteran shove as he's crossing the 35-yard line. You can clearly see Jefferson take his right hand and place it on Slay's left shoulder pad and shove him through. After this, you can also see Darius Slay trying to make up for that shove by grabbing onto Jefferson's left hand, yanking forward, and then using that yank to propel him back into the play to break up the throw. Call this offensive bias, but I rarely, if ever, see offensive pass interference called on plays like this one. I know it's unfair, but that's unfortunately just how things go. On the other hand, I do think most refs would call this defensive pass interference on Slay for not allowing Jefferson to use both hands to make a catch. Regardless, I know this is going to piss some people off, so feel free to call me biased or anything you can think of in the comments, but that's honestly how I feel. To wrap up this video, outside of maybe a defensive pass interference penalty, Darius Slay was absolutely incredible throughout this game. His route recognition, his athleticism to plant and drive, and his acute awareness to know what the Vikings offense was trying to do was simply amazing in this one. I'm truly blown away by his performance, and as a fan of another NFC East team, I have a feeling that the Philadelphia Eagles are here to stay. Well, that's all I have for you in this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Do me a favor and subscribe to the channel, as well if you want to support me directly, follow the link to my Patreon account below. As always, you can find me on Twitter at SamuelRGold.